Why are fairy tales a problem? How does believing in a love for life makes you hopeless? I don't get it. When I see a fairy tale, for example, I don't see a weak woman. I see a beautiful, gorgeous woman that shines from within and from the outside, and a man that has to prove himself. So this one German version from The Sleeping Beauty, I think it was from the GDR time, so it's a little older. I'm German, that's why I come up with this example. In this movie, the prince wanted to bring back life to a Sleeping Beauty. He found a coin with her image on it. Not Instagram, a coin. And then he found the 13th fairy, the bad fairy who would actually prove his intentions. And 13 is also a very feminine number, so that also shows us that intersection in a lot of fairy tales between matriarchy and patriarchy. So fairy tales are not just superficial and random and romanticized, there's a lot of ancient wisdom in them too. However, this fairy would prove him. There are 3 challenges: money and gold. He declined. He said, well, I just want the Sleeping Beauty to live again. It's crazy that she's been sleeping for 100 years. No, thank you. The second one, other beautiful women. Well, they're gorgeous, but I'm here for the Sleeping Beauty. And the third one, I guess, was something like power of fame, and obviously he declined too. And he was the first man who actually approved. Then he also had to prove his intellect and his physical strength. And then she would point to him the way where he has to go to find the Sleeping Beauty. So how have fairy tales ruined us? Huh? Even in fairy tales, men need to earn you. So I really don't get this whole hopeless romantic thing. I very recently, that's why I'm filming this video, because I'm a little bit triggered. A little bit. One man I know told me, well, you seem so like you romanticize everything. So basically, I'm just such a hopeless romantic, and he thinks because nothing ever happened in my life, that's the reason. And that triggered me so much. It reminded me of my school time. There was one of my classmates, she said, Anna is always so happy. And I looked at her, oh my god, you have no idea how many times I cry after school. No freaking idea. Well, she saw that I was not really agreeing, and then she corrected herself, saying, well, but you were an optimistic person. Yes, because giving up is it's not an option. Just because I see failed relationships, I still want to be 100% in and give it my try. And that doesn't make me hopeless. It makes me hopeful. So you're not hopeless, you're a hopeful romantic, and we need that. So many people have lost their faith in love, but they're also not really educating themselves. They think it's just luck. Well, I still very much believe in work, and I do agree fairy tales don't show us how we trigger each other and our wounds and the ups and downs of marriage. Of course, they don't show that, but that's also not really their job. Definitely we have parents, mentors, so we can really see what it takes to maintain marriage. And I want to give my best. And if that requires me to be a bit delusional, you're welcome. You're welcome. And of course, I don't know where it goes, and maybe I will get a divorce, I don't know, but I want to be 100% in from the beginning on and do my part. And you are smart, you are educated, you know that it requires work. So you're not hopeless. We need you to be hopeful in your love life. That's what I really wanted to say. Yeah, it was just so triggering. And oh yeah, there was also one thing I wanted to say. For example, with the Barbie movie, I'm outing myself, I was not the biggest fan of it. I thought there were great elements of it. But if this is like the modern fairy tale, what is the essence of that movie? It took me a very long time. I did not know what it was that was missing for me. And after a couple of days, I realized, wait, okay, so the essence of that movie for me, well, Ken is kind of useless and Barbie is now independent and a woman with certain body parts. Well, this is the whole essence. I think the whole movie really misses this love aspect. And yes, it's the easiest to show that with a man and a woman. That's just the most ancient one, but it's just the energies. And of course, no one will come to save you. You gotta save yourself. But that's also not what I see in fairy tales. When I have a man, well, then I want him to be my hero. But a real one. Honestly, I don't even want a fairy tale-like relationship. I want a real one because I think they're way better. But I like to borrow that innocence and that perspective and that energy from fairy tales. And I do think a lot of the older fairy tales, so the Russian ones, I love the Russian ones. Also the GDR ones, I love them too. What a Tschechische? I don't know the English word for that. But I'm not the biggest fan of American fairy tales. However, from the Russian ones, but even from the old Barbie movies, I recently looked up one of those and I watched them again. And I could just tell how much that influenced me just from my style, from my hair, the way I talk, the way I interact with people. Honestly, I'm happy that I'm that pure. And I'm not that pure because nothing ever happened to me. It's so nice, one of my friends said, well, anyone who thinks that you're just optimistic because nothing ever happened to you, that's delusional. Because you know, the people that are the happiest, the most radiant, they went through stuff. And yes, I've never had actual relationship trauma with boyfriends, but I still cried because of some guys, and at school no one would ever wait for me. That was also an intense feeling. It's not always that something really traumatic happened to us, it's just the feeling of, well, I'm going to the loo and no one's waiting for me when we switch buildings. We have our sports class and no one would choose me unless their best friend is sick. Well, was it really super traumatic? Did something really bad happen to me? No, but it felt, you know that feeling when you know it. When no one is just there because of you. And still I choose to believe in love, relationships, friendships, and I'm doing my work. It's not luck. And the people that tell me that I need to be more realistic, well, I study relationships way more than they do. So when I say fairy tales need role models, fairy tales need relationships. That's interesting. When fairy tales need role models, I mean that. It's not delusional or over-romanticized. We need actual physical representations of fairy tales. Because then we can learn what fairy tales don't teach us. Fairy tales have just that, it's one of those core, I think, stories. Like the woman and the man, the love, the union. It's just one of those, I think there are 4 or 5 core stories that humans always explain and tell each other. In movies, it's usually one of those 3 or 4 or 5 themes. So what is wrong with believing in fairy tales? Tell me. How are those Western realistic movies better? Why is every single movie, most of the movies, when I watch the TV, I sometimes do with my mom, when there's a married couple, it's always about, okay, they've been married for 30 years or 20 years, and one of them is cheating. How is this helping me? How? I don't get it. Then I'd rather look up fairy tales. What do you think? Aren't there things that fairy tales taught you that, yes, okay, maybe they seem a little delusional right now, but I know that you will do the work and you will find the knowledge, the skills to make that your reality. Because fairy tales do need relationships. Oh, fairy tales do need role models. What is going on today? I'm really sorry. I haven't eaten. Maybe I need to eat something. Yes, I'm experimenting with my background. But yeah, let me know, what did fairy tales teach you? What is it that you can still believe in? And always remember, you are hopeful. Don't let anyone tell you that you're being delusional. If you're being delusional, congratulations, you made it. In a world where most people don't believe in love, you get to be the lighthouse. We get to be the lighthouse. Okay? So that was just a little random. But I was really triggered. I was kind of triggered. But I also don't want to, when someone says you never went through stuff, you don't want to like bash out on them. No, I had this and this and this. Look how poor I was. Look what happened to me in high school. You don't want to do this either, right? So I wanted to turn it into something constructive. I hope there was something in it for you. And yeah, we'll see each other in the next episode. Thank you so much for being with me and being part of this journey. It can feel a little alone, especially when you go against the mainstream in dating in the West. As I said, I'm living in Germany. Even my friends, I'm the only one who's that weird. But I own it, and I have you in this. So thank you for joining on my journey. Yeah, see you very soon. Always remember, fairy tales need role models too. Why not us?